There is just not the consistency or simply very much difference between what we'd normally consider mid-table, playoff chasers and automatic chasers. It is the most open championship playoff race in years. Blackburn in third place are just 5 points ahead of Preston in 15th place. Let's try and do the impossible then and figure out how this might play out. For now, we're just going to ignore Burnley and Sheffield United, who are miles ahead. If you want to hear about those two, I did deal with them in another video that I will link at the end of this one. It wouldn't be unreasonable to ask what the hell is going on here with this table. Well, we've got two teams excelling and either hitting or surpassing that 2 points per game mark. Now, there is nothing unusual about that for the top teams, but it's below those two where there is just not the consistency or simply very much difference between what we'd normally consider mid-table, playoff chasers and automatic chasers. Why is this happening? Well, very boringly with football, the answer probably has to do with money. We've known that since the Premier League TV broadcast money went stratospheric with those past two negotiations, and then the parachute payments were shrunk down from 4 years to 3 years around 2015, that those teams in receipt have dominated. Now, as ever, I will point out the parachute payments are not a guarantee, and if a club has them and doesn't operate competently, then they will get left behind. Burnley have obviously really nailed their hard reset with Vincent Kompany. Sheffield United have maintained a high level of squad and consistency and kept strong. The other ex-Premier League challengers, well, Bournemouth and Fulham, they're out the way. They got promoted in their parachute term. West Brom are now on manager number 3 since they were relegated, and Norwich and Watford have both made managerial changes already in the first half of this season. There's also the fact that with FFP now a thing and post-COVID, clubs without parachute payments aren't tending to gamble anymore. Now, this is obviously a good thing in terms of the long-term viability of those institutions and the pyramid in general, but it does have the effect of simultaneously levelling the playing field below the teams with the biggest broadcast revenue and exaggerating the gap. The likes of Sheffield Wednesday and Derby County in very recent history spent big, got to the playoff finals, missed out. They're now both in League One. Birmingham and Reading both had their FFP deductions, and the likes of sort of Bristol City are no longer dropping the big transfer fees they were just a few seasons ago. This levelling off beneath the wealthiest teams has meant we've had some pretty wild playoff stories in the past few seasons. Luton, over the course of 2 seasons, went from escaping relegation and finishing 19th up to 6th last season. Barnsley pretty much stayed up with the last kick of their season, finished 21st, and then the following year they finished in 5th in the playoffs. And just last season, Huddersfield went from 20th the previous season all the way up to 3rd. Now, you'll probably hear plenty of people roll out the fairly jarring and very dramatic, oh, this is the worst championship I can remember, or something to that effect. And it's just annoying, one of those attention-grabbing, unfalsifiable positions. There is no objective way of proving or disproving general quality of an entire division. And I'm not sure I actually accept the premise that less variance in quality is equal to less quality, period. Often if you look closely, the person saying that the league is crap is motivated by wanting to chop everybody else off at the knees to make the team they support look a little bit taller. So, look, that's my take on why. What about who is going to make it into the playoffs this season? Well, if we go down the very dull, boring and predictable football finance argument, then we can lock in the parachute teams. That's Watford, Norwich and West Brom for 3 of your positions. And Middlesbrough, well, they had the Jed Spence windfall and are probably best placed outside of those to compete financially. Not an unrealistic 4, is it? Now, I don't want to spend ages going through what is now half of a division, but of the other challengers, here is my take. Blackburn, well, they're up in 3rd currently. Reasonably, though, questions are being asked with that negative goal difference and 12 defeats thus far. Sunderland have snuck up into 4th, but Is Ellis Sims being recalled by Everton, and will Ross Stewart stay this January? Not quite certain about what the ownership's up to there. Luton were there last season, but their talismanic leader Nathan Jones is no longer there. Can Rob Edwards lead in the same way he did? Millwall looks interesting. They've been close a few times, and in terms of continuity, they're very strong with Gary Rowett now into his 4th year. Swansea, who knows? Sometimes they look like they're ready to go and then they'll go on a poor run. Does look like they're going to make some moves in the January window though. QPR, they've got a couple of real quality players, but again, it's another new manager very early into the job. Coventry, well, they were ticking loads of boxes. Again, the continuity of Mark Robins, long-term trend is up. Losing Callum O'Hare, that is not good, that long-term injury. And is it going to be distracting January in terms of star striker Victor Gyökeres? And that takes us all the way down to Preston. But really, with that home record and all those nil-nils early in the season, surely someone will push ahead of Preston if they can't improve on that. My take then, for what it's worth, it will probably be 3 out of the 4 powerhouses. That's Watford, Norwich, West Brom and Middlesbrough. Maybe we'll get a complete mess up from either Watford or Norwich as they negotiate their latest relegation, as that trend is definitely more upwards for West Brom and Borough. Out of the current pack, I like Luton on the basis of what they did last year. I like Millwall in terms of continuity. And let's be fair, if Critchley with his Blackpool in League One head on and Chris Willock and Ilias Chair can get their heads together, maybe QPR can go on some kind of surge. Let's be completely honest about this though. Anyone below 3rd could just as easily win 6 out of 8 as they could lose 6 out of 8 in this current championship season. Play along down there in the comments. If the top 2 are away and clear and into the distance, then let me know who right now would be your 4 in the playoffs. I think I only got it down to about 7, but there you go. As ever, please don't take it too seriously. The aim is to have a fun debate and discuss right now where all the contenders are. And what about that top 2 up and away into the distance over the past few weeks? You can click up here to see why I think it's probably quite unlikely that Burnley and Sheffield United will actually be caught.